And we're back. Welcome to a brand new mini-series taking place over the course of the next couple of weeks on the channel. This is my preview and predictions for the EFL playoffs. I'm starting off today with the semi-final first legs, covering all 6 fixtures taking place over the course of today, tomorrow and the weekend across the Championship, League 1 and League 2. We only did the Championship last year. I'm going to try and do all 3 leagues this year. Before we get into it, if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video if you enjoy all of my previews and predictions. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on the Premier League predictions videos coming once again tomorrow. And there is still time for you to check out the 2 Europa League and Europa Conference League videos ahead of tonight's matches in those competitions as well. But without any further ado, let's get into it. Starting things off in the Championship, it would have been probably nice to go League 2, League 1 Championship, but the EFL have decided to put the Championship fixtures on first, so that is the order I'm going to do things as well. And we'll start off with tonight's game at Ashton Gate between Bristol City and Sheffield United. It's 6th against 3rd, and a 22-point gap between these two sides coming into the playoffs. Just sort of shows how well Sheffield United had done over the course of this season. Sadly for them, couldn't quite keep up with Burnley and Leeds in the end. But still, a 3rd place finish isn't too bad for them. Like I say, a 22-point gap to 6th place, meaning that they should really be considered the early favourites coming into this one, especially when you consider that they're part of the reason Bristol City even got in the playoffs in the first place, because Sheffield United drew with Blackburn at the weekend, meaning that even though Bristol City could only draw themselves with Preston, they were able to get enough points to stave off Blackburn. If Blackburn would have beaten Sheffield United, Blackburn would have been in this position rather than Bristol City. In terms of the form guides, actually neither side have played particularly well over the last few weeks. As we just said, they both drew at the weekend, and both of them have only managed just 7 points out of a possible 15 in their last 5 matches. They're not necessarily playing that great. The good news for both sides, though, is that neither of them have any fresh concerns coming into this one. So realistically, all you've really got to look at is that head-to-head guide between the two of them. And even then, it's not too different in terms of how close things are. Earlier on this season, away at Bramall Lane, it was a 1-1 draw, so a good result for Bristol City away from home. However, when these sides met at Ashton Gate earlier on this season, Sheffield United did take a 2-1 victory. So again, I think certainly for the course of the tie, I think Sheffield United should definitely be considered the favourites. However, for tonight's game, I think it's going to be very, very close, and I quite like the thought of another draw to set up a good second leg. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Like I say, I'd still make Sheffield United the slight favourites, but I think Bristol City are going to get something from this opening leg. The other game taking place in the Championship comes tomorrow, and that is between Coventry City and Sunderland. And realistically, there's only one place we can start when it comes to this fixture, and that is that Sunderland have lost all of their last 5 matches in the lead up to these playoffs. And across those 5 matches, only scored 1 goal in the process. We always talk about it when it comes to the playoffs. The team that is actually most likely to win the playoffs is the side with the best form coming into the playoffs. But actually, none of these sides, any of the 4 of them, are in a particularly good run of form, but none are in a worse run of form than Sunderland. Like I just said, losing all of their last 5. Coventry actually did win at the weekend. They're the only side of the 4 in these playoffs to actually win their final game of the season. It was a crucial win as well against fellow playoff-chasing Middlesbrough. A good 2-0 victory at home for them last time out, giving Frank Lampard's side a little bit of confidence coming into this one. Furthermore, if you want to talk about head-to-head records once again, it was very good for Coventry, drawing the away game at Sunderland 2-2, but also beating Sunderland 3-0 at home, with Haji Wright scoring 4 of the 5 goals across those 2 games. In terms of injuries and suspensions, again, no fresh concerns coming into this one. For me, there's only really one winner of this opening leg, and it is the side that has dominated Sunderland already this season, and that is Coventry. Like I said, 5 defeats in a row. You can't come into the playoffs with that sort of form. Realistically, Sunderland need a miracle to make it to that second leg with anything to play for. I'm going for a 2-0 victory for Coventry, but wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being more. On to the weekend then, and for League 1 and League 2, there's one game on Saturday, one game on Sunday, but we'll start off with both games in League One. And the game on Saturday is between Leyton, Orient and Stockport County. And we've just mentioned about how all the Championship sides are not in form. These two sides in League One are in better form than all the other sides in this entire video. And unfortunately for both of them, they have to play against each other. Leyton Orient come into this unbeaten in their last 7 matches, winning all of the last 6. Stockport come into this unbeaten in their last 8, winning 7 of those 8. And interestingly, there's only 9 points between these two sides in 6th and 3rd, when you consider there were 22 points between 6th and 3rd in the Championship. So much, much tighter in League One, which does make things a little bit more interesting. In terms of what I think is going to happen in this game, the first thing I would say is goals. Both of these sides are scoring goals for fun at the moment. That's why they're winning games for fun at the moment. But, interestingly, they are also both conceding a fair few goals at the moment as well. They're just obviously scoring more than they are conceding. In terms of the team news, yet again, no fresh injury or suspension concerns for either side. So we're going at this game on face value. Both games, interestingly even more, earlier on this season, both games were won by the away side. What I mean by that is Stockport won away at Leyton Orient 1-0. Leyton Orient won away at Stockport 4-1. So really, really interesting tie this. I do think, again, that all 3 results are possible. So as I said with the opening game, when I think that all 3 results are possible, I think the safest option is just to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a more high-scoring draw this time. I'm going for a 2-2 for Leyton Orient and Stockport County, which then takes us to then Wycombe taking on Charlton on Sunday. Incredibly, Wycombe have lost all of their last 3 matches to the 3 other sides in the playoffs, which is just absolutely bizarre. Literally, their last 3 games have been against Leyton Orient, Stockport County and Charlton Athletic. They have lost all 3. And what's most interesting coming into this one is that when they played Charlton, it was at home and they lost 4-0. So that is a massive, massive momentum boost coming into this for Charlton. Not that they needed it when they're on a phenomenal run of form anyway. They've won 15 of their last 20. They did lose a couple of weeks ago, but it was to the eventual promoted side in Wrexham. But they've been winning for fun, and like we just said, did beat Wycombe 4-0 away from home just a couple of weeks ago. So it's a really good position for Charlton to be in. Furthermore, there is big injury news surrounding Wycombe's main man, Kone, their striker, who didn't play at the weekend with a suspected injury. And as things stand, it's unclear whether or not he is going to make it back for this first leg. All expectation is he should be back for the second leg, but he's still listed as doubtful for the first leg. For Charlton, Aneka is still going to be suspended. He was actually sent off in that game against Wycombe in the last minutes of the game after it was already 4-0 and wrapped up. So he is going to be unavailable as well. In my opinion, you just have to go for Charlton here. You can't, as again, like we said about Sunderland, you can't come into the playoffs in a bad run of form and then expect for it suddenly to all go right again, especially against a team that you've just been hammered by. I'm going for a Charlton win here. I'm not going to go as significant as it was a couple of weekends ago, but I am going to go for a 2-1 victory to Charlton, which should set them up perfectly to get to Wembley in the second leg. And then we have League 2, so we'll jump back to Saturday for the opening game of League 2. And weirdly, in League 2, they're doing the 2 sides closest together first, and then having the 2 sides further apart on Sunday. But we start off with Notts County taking on Wimbledon. And this league is actually the tightest of the 3. Only 7 points separating these 4 sides. Only 1 point separating Notts County and Wimbledon coming into this one. But in terms of this game, it's going to be a really interesting one once again because both sides are not on good runs of form. Only 4 points out of a possible 15 for Notts County coming into this. Only 5 points out of a possible 15 for Wimbledon coming into this one. However, at least Wimbledon did get their victory on the final day of the season to put them in this position. Meanwhile, Notts were losing at home, albeit to the eventual champions in Doncaster. So, again, it's a really tough one to call. Again, no fresh injury concerns coming out of the final day, and it is expected that both sides will have full squads ready and available for this one. In terms of the head-to-head, both sides won their home games, so Notts County won 1-0 at home to Wimbledon. Wimbledon won 2-0 at home to Notts County. What I would say is that over the course of these last few games, it's Wimbledon that have slightly struggled more in terms of scoring. They have only managed just 2 goals in their last 5 matches, where have Notts, despite not getting wins, have still been scoring goals. So I do fancy Notts County to be able to keep a clean sheet in this opening game. It's just whether or not they can get themselves a goal as well. I'm backing them to do so. It was a 1-0 victory for them at home in October. I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory for Notts County once again. And then finally, it is Chesterfield taking on Walsall. And for Chesterfield, I mean, for both sides, it was absolute drama until the final whistle. Chesterfield secured their playoff spot by winning on the final day, and because Salford drew their final game. So Chesterfield just about snuck themselves in on the final day. For Walsall, they thought they'd done enough. When the full-time whistle blew on their game, they were promoted to League One, but then Bradford scored a 96th minute winner to go up in their place. But to be honest, it's no less than what Walsall actually deserved, because their victory on the final day was their first victory in 14 matches, stretching back to February. And just bear in mind, they still finished 4th. And they hadn't won a game since February. We should be talking about the champions of League Two here, not a side that are in the playoffs. They are on an absolutely horrendous run of form. Yes, that win should give them a confidence boost. But because Bradford got that late goal, the amount of damage that will do to the side mentally, especially after the poor run of form that they're in, you have to look at Chesterfield and look at their good run of form, being the fact that they're unbeaten in their last 6, winning their last 2. You've got to probably fancy Chesterfield to get the result in this opening fixture here. The only other thing you would put in Walsall's favour is that they are unbeaten in the 2 matches against Chesterfield so far this season. They drew at Chesterfield, they won the game at home. So there could be prospect of Walsall getting something here. Again, no fresh concerns for either side in terms of injuries, but Connor Barrett is still going to be suspended following his red card against Accrington Stanley a couple of weeks ago. Judging by the form, you just have to go for Chesterfield here. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory. You just can't go on that much of a run of poor form and suddenly expect off the back of 1 win to then take that sort of momentum into the playoffs. I expect Chesterfield to get the result here. As always, let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me know anything you think I've missed. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I'll be back once again tomorrow morning for the next round of Premier League predictions. I'll see you there.